At some point in late autumn, around 4 inches the afternoon, the yard goes quiet. The feeder is still half full. The seed has not been touched in nearly an hour. A single northern cardinal lands on the rim, takes one safflower seed, vanishes into the dense interior of a holly bush at the edge of the lawn. Most people see this and think the birds have simply left for the day. They have not. They are doing something far more deliberate, far more coordinated, and far more strange than the empty feeder suggests. The yard you are looking at through your kitchen window is, at this exact moment, one of the busiest pieces of real estate in the neighborhood. Almost none of that activity is visible from where you stand. Welcome back to Backyard Bird Mind. If this is your first visit, take a moment to subscribe. Over the next 10 minutes, this video will reveal what is actually happening in the yard when you feed birds every single day. The final revelation, drawn from research by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, the United States Geological Survey Bird Banding Lab, the USGS, is the part most viewers find hardest to believe. Number 1. The birds in your yard know exactly who you are. This is not sentiment. It is documented behavior. Researchers at the University of Washington, led by John Marsloof, demonstrated that American crows can recognize and remember specific human faces for at least 5 years. They teach the identity of those humans to other crows that have never seen the person before. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology has recorded similar facial recognition behavior in blue jays and black-capped chickadees. These are two of the most common visitors to backyard feeders in the eastern United States. The black-capped chickadee weighs about 11 grams. That's roughly the weight of 2 pennies. It has one of the highest brain-to-body mass ratios of any North American songbird. According to research published in Behavioral Ecology, chickadees expand the size of their hippocampus by up to 30% each autumn. This allows them to remember the precise location of thousands of individual cached seeds. The chickadee that lands on the feeder when you walk outside is not a generic bird. It is a specific individual that has memorized your face, your routine, and the sound of the door you just opened. But recognition is only the beginning. What happens next, on the feeder itself, is stranger. Number 2, the feeder is a hierarchy you cannot see. Every flock that visits a backyard feeder operates on a strict dominant structure that ornithologists call a pecking order. This term was coined from studies of Norwegian chickens in 1921, but applied today to nearly every social songbird. According to Cornell Lab field studies, a winter flock of chickadees moving through a yard typically contains between 6 and 10 birds. Every single one of them knows its rank. The dominant pair feeds first. Subordinate birds wait in the shrubs, sometimes for several minutes, before approaching. The tufted titmouse, common across the eastern half of the country, will often arrive with the chickadee flock and outrank every chickadee present. This happens despite being only slightly larger. The white-breasted nuthatch arrives separately and operates on its own internal hierarchy. Mated pairs defend feeding territory year-round, unlike most songbirds that pair only in spring. The mourning dove, which appears placid and slow, is in fact one of the most strictly hierarchical visitors. Pete Dunn, in his field observations published through the New Jersey Audubon Society, notes that mourning doves at a feeder will displace each other through a precise sequence of wing raises and short hops. They almost never escalate to actual contact. The bird that lands last is rarely the bird that eats first. And then there is the species that breaks the order entirely. Number 3. Your feeder is feeding birds you have never seen. According to data collected by Project Feeder Watch, a Cornell Lab citizen science program that has recorded more than 100 million bird observations since 1987, the average backyard feeder in the eastern United States is visited by between 15 and 25 different species over the course of a single winter. The feeder watcher, however, typically reports only 6 or 7. The difference is the birds that arrive when no one is watching. The Carolina wren weighs about 20 grams. It is one of the most consistent dawn visitors, often arriving in the first 15 minutes of civil twilight. This is well before most people are at the window. The dark-eyed junco, which Cornell estimates winters in flocks totaling more than 630 million individuals across North America, feeds almost exclusively on the ground beneath the feeder. It is missed by viewers focused on the perches above. Even more invisibly, nocturnal and crepuscular visitors pass through. The red-bellied woodpecker often makes its final feeder visit in near darkness, 15 to 20 minutes after sunset. Researchers tracking suet feeder cameras and studies published in the Journal of Field Ornithology have documented eastern screech owls landing on suet cages in the middle of the night. They are not there to eat the suet, but to hunt the mice the suet attracts to the ground below. Your feeder is operating on a 2-4 hour schedule. The daytime species are only one shift, Number 4. Your daily feeding is changing the birds themselves. This is where the research becomes genuinely surprising. A long-term study published in the journal Global Change Biology, analyzing British Trust for Ornithology data from more than 40 years of garden feeding, found that the bills of British great tits have grown measurably longer in populations with consistent access to bird feeders. Great tits are close relatives of the North American chickadees and titmice. This is an evolutionary shift documented in fewer than 30 generations. In North America, the house finch, originally a bird of the arid Southwest, expanded across the entire eastern United States in roughly 50 years. The American Bird Conservancy and Cornell Lab both attribute this expansion in large part to the proliferation of backyard feeders. The northern cardinal, once a southern species, has pushed its breeding range more than 700 miles northward since the 1950s. United States Fish and Wildlife Service migratory bird records and Audubon Christmas bird count data both correlate this expansion directly with the spread of suburban feeding stations. The bird at your feeder is not the bird your grandparents saw. It is, in measurable ways, a different animal, shaped by the seed you put out every morning. Number 5. The birds in your yard remember you across generations. This is the part most people find hardest to accept. According to banding records maintained by the USGS Bird Banding Lab, individual black-capped chickadees have been documented returning to the same feeder for up to 11 consecutive winters. Northern cardinals banded at backyard stations have been recovered at the same address up to 15 years later. But the more remarkable finding, reported by Jennifer Ackerman in The Bird Way and supported by Cornell Behavioral Studies, is that juvenile birds learn the location of reliable feeders by following their parents. This means the chickadee at your window this winter may be the great-grandchild of the chickadee that first found your feeder a decade ago. The yard is not visited, it is inherited. Return now to that quiet yard in late afternoon, the feeder half full, the single cardinal vanishing into the holly. Look again. In the holly bush, the cardinal is not alone. A female sits 2 branches deeper, watching. In the woodpecker hole in the dying oak, a chickadee has already settled for the night. Its body temperature is beginning to drop by as much as 22 degrees Fahrenheit to survive the cold. Beneath the feeder, in the leaf litter, a junco moves in small, deliberate hops, finishing what the others left behind. Above the roofline, invisible in the deepening blue, the last migrants of the season are passing south. They will be picked up tonight on Birdcast radar over your county at altitudes between 1,500 and 3,000 feet. The yard you thought was empty is layered with lives that know your face, remember your routine, have arranged themselves, with great precision, around the small act of you filling a feeder each morning. You have been living beside this without seeing it. Now you see it. Tell me in the comments, what is the one bird that shows up at your feeder every single day without fail, and how long has it been coming? I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one.